Good morning, everyone in the Successful Salon Team Training Room. I hope you are doing well. It's another really beautiful one here in sunny Ramsgate. I don't know what it's like with you, but this morning I have the most special guest, somebody that means so much to me. And I warn you now, okay, this is going to be a big warning to everyone. I am going to cry. There's no two ways about this, and I'm an ugly crier. So get with it. It's happening. I know it is. Forgive me. I am a real human being, and I know it's going to come out. So there you go. There's my disclaimer. Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Good morning, Jen. You're looking wonderful as ever.
Thank you very much. Chris, tell the guys a little bit about yourself so that they can understand who you are and what our relationship is.
Oh, our relationship. That's going to be. I think you've disclosed that one already, though. So I think I'm safe. So first and foremost, I'm a hairdresser. So I'm like all the guys that you have on and have had, chatting, etc. I started off as an apprentice when I was 15. So I know what it's like to be sweeping those floors and shampooing and, doing all that stuff. Left school struggling to read and write because I'm dyslexic, and which quite a lot of hairdressers are, I think. And then I did my apprenticeship with a lovely lady called Mandy Masters, who you know, and she was my mentor back then. And then I opened up. Sorry,
I didn't know that about you.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
She was my mentor. Wow.
She
taught me everything I know. She was a hard teacher as well, I can tell you.
She'll probably be on today, so careful.
But she was the best. And then I opened up my first salon. It was the day before my 21st birthday. And I remember it well. I didn't tell my parents that I was going to do it because I was a little bit nervous. And anyways, opened it up. And now I have 3 salons and employ about 40 people. But I've got all furloughed at the moment. So exactly the same challenges as the salon owners that are on here have. Trying to keep that going, and then also the foundation going at the same time it's hard work. But they're facing the same challenges over there, but they don't get the government support that we're getting. So although we might knock it, we've been paid 80% furloughed. We've had grants that we can apply for. We've got loans we can apply for. There, the government's not stepping in. So it has been some huge challenges for us as a charity to try and keep them all fed and just to keep everything going. So yeah, it's tough.
I want to really touch on what's happening out there in just a second. But first of all, what is it that the charity does inside of our industry? Because I think this is so special.
So it started off 10 years ago, and it's actually 10 years ago this month. And which is quite poignant, really, that I'm here. And 10 years ago this month, one of our apprentices, one of our future professionals, said that he would like to go out to Africa. His name was Ed, and he had his dream board, and on his dream board, that's what he put. And like you, we're very much into about helping youngsters achieve whatever it is they want to achieve. And we said, if you want to go, let's go. And he sort of said, well, you can't do that. And I said, yes, you can. No, you can't. Yes, you can. And then I said, look, go away and think about it. And he went away, thought about it, and came back and said, I'd really like to do this. So I said, okay, let's make it happen. So we took our training school of then, which was quite small. There was 4 youngsters, and also Debs, who's a trustee, and she was a salon owner as well with me. She runs one of my salons. And we took them out, and we were only ever going to go on that one trip. I just wanted to make it happen for this young man and the youngsters and open their eyes. I'd been to Africa back in when I was about 26. And it kind of gets to your heart, Africa. I don't know what it is. Always knew I was going to go back, but didn't know how. And we went to a beautiful children's home and traveled there for 32 hours, got to the gates. All these little kids came running up. I stepped out of the car and thought, oh, I don't like kids. And that was my first realization moment. Get on with adults. Don't mind teenagers, but little ones, just forget it. But it just so happened they didn't like me either. So they all took the teenagers' hands and they just all disappeared and left me standing there like Billy No Mates. So it was my belief that the kids that we were working with, they all had HIV. So it was my belief that that they'd obviously caught the HIV because their mum had given it to them, passed away, left as an orphan, and that was kind of the lot. And I thought, that's kind of what we're dealing with. But that wasn't the case. They weren't born with it. So then you start thinking, well, how did you get it? And then you get a little thought that comes into your head, and it's not one you like. So you push it away, and it comes back, and then you realize that they've got their HIV because they've been abused. And as the only adult male walking in, that was a tough one. But there was one little kid, and he was sitting with an orange squash bottle, and he had this pipe coming out the top with a load of dust, and he'd give it a smack, and this dust would go poof all over his face. And he was sitting by himself, so I thought I'll go and talk to him. So I sort of went up to him, and was going to go and talk to him, and he sort of stood up, disappeared, and went off around the corner. I thought, where's he going? Because I sort of took my head around the corner. There's a grass verge and a tree, and he was sitting under there hitting this orange squash bottle. So I thought I'll have another go and chat to him. And as I walked up to him, I realised he was crying, and I was like, there is no way I can talk to a kid that's crying. Kind of, where's an adult? Help. And then I looked at him and thought, actually, all he wants is a hug. So I sat down next to him, introduced myself, and said, hello, what's your name? And he said, Tabisol. And I said, hi, my name's Chris. And I sort of wiped up the tears from his face, created a complete mud mess on his face from the dust that was flying up from the bottle and this water. And then, I said, do you want a hug? And he gave me this big squeeze. And I said, look, I'm going to, help you build this little house. Do you want to give me a hand? And he said, yes. I was like, brilliant. I've got a new best friend. I started walking up the hill, and next thing, this little hand came inside my hand, and he became my new best mate. And it was fantastic that the teenagers, I knew nothing about building, and we were there to build this little house of safety. And we had two builders that are amazing that still work with us now, 10 years on, who you've met. Yeah. Jeff Ross and people, then they're gentlemen, they're amazing. Yeah. And they taught us, but the teenagers were knocking part of this building down. They love seeing their boss putting all the rubble into the wheelbarrow and then making me lift this thing and run 200 yards to empty it out. But the good thing was that Tabsol jumped in it and came back with me, and was with me all day long, and he just loved it. And then we were asked to go to the hospital, the local hospital, and in there were a lot of children with HIV or injuries and etc. And we'd taken these teddy bears with us, and there was one particular kid sitting lying down right at the end, and I think he's the actual kid that you put on your slide that said that I was coming on.
Yeah.
And it was really quite hard, because I said to the nurse, can I go and talk to him? And she said, you can, just be careful, he's got full-blown AIDS. And I walked up to him, and Ed said, does he want a teddy? And I said, don't be silly, he's 12 years old, he ain't gonna want a teddy. And then he was looking at me, but he was looking through me. And I was thinking, what's he looking at? And sort of turned around. And Ed was swinging a teddy. And I said, Ed, I've got this one wrong. I said, he wants a teddy. So gave him the teddy, chatted to him for about half an hour. He didn't say anything. And then we had to go. And, we said, look, we'll come back tomorrow and see you. And we both got up and walked to the door. And as we walked to the door, we heard, goodbye. And we ran back and went, you can speak English, can't you? And he gave us this big cheesy smile. And, we said, look, we'll come back and see you. But I said to the nurse, I said, what's his name? And she said, his name's Tabisol, the same name as the young lad that was in the children's home. And you kind of understood his journey. But it was a miracle this kid could actually talk, because he was 12 years old and he weighed just under 2 stone. Unfortunately, he didn't make it. His life was very short. And I think that was a real realization moment, when I went back and saw Tabisol and saw him and at the gate with a big cheesy smile. And I thought, right now, this minute today, you've got to make it the best day you can make it for him and the other kids, because you didn't know what their life expectancy was. And we had an amazing 3 weeks, particularly with Ed and the other youngsters that we took out as well. We built this place, and it was absolutely fantastic. And at the end of it, we were due to come home, and the kids were sitting on a bench, and I went and joined them, and they were going to go off to school. And they started to cry once we said we were going home. And I was thinking, what are they crying for? And I'll kind of push them on a swing until my arms are going to drop off. I've fed them. I've read them a bedtime story. I've built my lovely little house, raised £10,000, done my charity bit. I'm off home. And, I said to them, to stop them from crying, look, I'll see you again in August. And this was the May. And I had no idea how or what, but tears turned to cheesy smiles. Off they went to school. I came home, and it wasn't until we landed, and I live by myself, and the first thing I have to do is I have to go to, the supermarket, Tesco's, to go and do my shopping. And I was picking off all the stuff that, I wanted, and I just completely broke down. And then I picked up a Chinese and got home, sat on the sofa, emptied my Chinese out, started to eat it, broke down again. Went into work the next day. The wonderful guest that had raised all this and helped to raise all this money said, "How was Africa?" And I just couldn't talk about it. And I came close, I think, to sort of having a bit of a breakdown. I had to go and see somebody to go and sort my head out. And I found it a real challenge. And even now, those thoughts, when you ask me, takes me back. It still unsettles me, but that's kind of my driver, because the kids taught me to play again. They taught me to be that child, to be that inner kid, and it was amazing. I just loved it. But I realized that I'd made a promise, and I had to keep that promise. So I went and inspired another load of youngsters, and back out we went again, and we built a reservoir. Although the kids thought it was a swimming pool, but it was a reservoir. And then at the end of that trip, I was in the same position, but this time the parents said to me, "Would you take us out?" So I said, "Yeah." So we took out a load of the parents, and we built a chicken house. It was meant to be for 5 chickens, but because of my dyslexicness, it ended up for 50 chickens. And we then came back off that trip, and then I thought, well, I want to go out for 6 weeks and build something for the community. So I went out and built a village hall, and I inspired 20 youngsters. And Tracy from Destiny, she sent a lot of her youngsters out. In fact, Ed met his future wife on an Africa trip, which was fantastic to see. And they've got 3 children now. And but whilst that was being built, it gave me the opportunity to get out into the community and actually see in the KwaZulu-Natal community, there were between 9,000 and 15,000 orphans. And I'd go into a little house around Duval, which is a round house, and there'd be kids chewing on a goat's head, just crawling with maggots. And you just think, and that's what they would eat. And you just think, this isn't right. And, the world's just forgotten about all these kids. There's about 60 to 7% of the population have HIV, and about 67% of the adult population just got wiped out. So you get a 12-year-old looking after an 8-year-old looking after a 6-year-old, and that 12-year-old's head of house. Yeah. So they do all the cooking, the cleaning, get the other kids ready for school, get themselves ready for school. And I really thought then that, I've got to do something. I can't just go home and do nothing. So there was never really a plan with the foundation. There was never really this is how we're going to do it. It's kind of just grown organically. And, I started to research and started to read up on stuff and, talk to devs, and, we were just sort of brainstorming and really realized that every human being has a right to the basic need of food, water, and shelter. And those basic rights for children, not let alone adults, children, would just not be met. No. And I just thought, this is just wrong. So I thought we need to do something about this. So we started our initially 3 projects, which is our Food for Life project, our Clothes for Clothes, and our Build for the Future project, which would satisfy that need for those children, and for us to be able to reach out to as many kids as we could to be able to support them. Little did I know 10 years later that we would still be doing this, and it's just grown and grown and grown. And it's a passion. I love it. But it's through hairdressing and through the hairdressing world and through taking many apprentices out and actually stylists as well. Because our industry is about, I used to think about just making people look good and not necessarily about making people feel good. But on my journey, I've learned, no, it is about making people feel good. And actually, you know, there's so many people out there that want to help, but they don't know how to. You know, they don't know what they can do. So, you know, we kind of have put a plea out, really, particularly with COVID-19 happening, that the world has gone into lockdown. It isn't just, you know, England. It isn't just West Sussex or, you know, where you are in Kent, or it isn't just Horsham, where I live, or it isn't just my house. It's the whole world.
Yeah.
And it is a struggle. I live by myself, and it is a struggle, you know, day in, day out to you know, get yourself motivated, get yourself up. You've got, certainly over the last 7 weeks, not really much communication with people in the sense, and that's hard. But imagine being a kid that's 12 years old and has got a little brother that's 6 years old, and they're in lockdown. And, you know, when I say lockdown, their lockdown has been 10 times worse than ours in terms of they haven't been able to go out at all. I mean, it's been complete. And where do you get your food from? So a lot of the kids would or have in the past begged. So what would happen is they come home from school, they beg out to the community, they get a little bit of something, and then, you know, they could cook or whatever. So what we do with our Food for Life program is we ask everybody that we meet if they can donate £2. And that's all we ask for, just £2. Now that £2 will give us or supply 40 meals for children. And we generally feed in schools. But, you know, one kid can have the porridge that we supply, and that will be their only meal all the way through. You know, and if you wipe out a generation of children sorry, generation of adults, how does a child learn to grow vegetables, to cook, to rebuild its house when those skills haven't been passed on? Because when we have a child with us, they're learning and watching us all the time. But if that adult is taken away, how does that child then learn and do? So what we've done is we've set up community gardens, and we have a wonderful guy over there called Namusa and Nkosi, and they teach the kids how to grow the crops and grow so they can defend for themselves. But with COVID-19, it's been incredibly challenging because the price of food has rocketed. You might have a gogo, which is a grandma, who works in a local safari, and she's like a housemaid there. And when she's in that safari, now the hospitality industry, which is what Africa's about really, the safaris has completely been wiped out. So these people, maybe there might be one person in the family that worked there, and there's 30 others that depend on that one wage, and now that's gone. So more than ever now, our food is important. So there's two ways people can get involved. Is one, we can put the link on later, and they can just donate £2 a month.
In the description, already there. Brilliant. Look at the description of this video.
Good stuff. Or they can donate to a family, which is £25 a month, and that will then give them a whole you know, rice and maize. I don't know whether we've got a picture of that, which we can show people, obviously, you know, later.
Yeah.
But that and that helps hugely with the kids in terms of making sure that they have, you know, that one meal a day. You know, and we prefer to do the food parcel, because the food parcel is about the little family sitting down together, learning to cook and being a family. If you feed just in schools, and actually incidentally the schools aren't open at the moment, we're having to feed outside the schools, but if you feed just in schools, then what happens is that they might get that food, but they don't get what you get when the family, and I think particularly in lockdown at the moment, families are together and they're eating together, and they're understanding perhaps what they've missed pre-lockdown, you know, when everyone would just come in, grab something and go. But actually, that whole being together is what is really important about that family, that word family. So it teaches them to be able to sit down together and to have that communication, as opposed to just having a bowl of porridge and then going straight into school. Both are important. The porridge is one of the most important things as well, because a lot of the kids that we work with are on antiretrovirals. And what they do is they stop HIV sliding into AIDS. So basically, that pill keeps them alive. Now, they get that from the government, but they don't get food from the government, and they have to take it with food, otherwise they get massive side effects, and they will then slide into AIDS. So again, that £2 a month doesn't just feed a child, it keeps a child alive. And I think that's probably one of our biggest challenges at the moment. So you said you cry. I'm starting to get upset myself now. Because I know there's kids out there at the moment, and I know kids that really, really well, that have got communication to me and have said they're starving. They have got nothing to eat. And balancing that off with trying to keep the company going, and also then making sure that they're okay and that they're fed, is quite a weight to carry. So it really is about we asking everybody just if they could just spare £2. That is just awesome. We've managed to supply over the 10 years that we've been going 2.5 million meals to these kids, just from people's kind donations of £2 a month. And I know you've got over 1,000 people that follow this. If everybody did £2, that's £2,000 that we'd have coming in a month, which would make a huge difference to thousands and thousands of kids. And what it would mean is that they get fed. They get one meal. They don't get chocolate, they don't get crisps, and all that stuff. They just get a little bowl of porridge that triples in size once it's in their stomach, and it keeps them going and keeps them fed. So that's kind of how the Food for Life has grown over the years. And we've supported many children up the east coast of Africa, going all the way from Durban, Port Elizabeth, and then going all the way up to Munduku, Mabagaz, and then going into Mozambique and Tanzania. But we've had to stop Tanzania and Mozambique at the moment and pull back to where we actually work, because we just don't have the funds. And that's the tough bit. That's the bit that is, it's hard, because when I took it on, and I take a feeding station on, or I take a community on, I say to them, I'm doing this for life. And because of this unexpected event across the world, I've had to break a promise. And I'm not very good at that. So yeah, it's tough at the moment, very tough.
Okay, so one of the things that I've really, really taken on is about getting my team out there, and we can't get out there at the moment. As a business, as Obsession Salon, we've raised over £17,000. We've built 11 houses. It's been a phenomenal journey for me and my team, and it's about my team having the opportunity to go out there, as well as what we do out there, giving my team the ability to go see life in another set of eyes. But obviously we can't go out there at the moment, and we're not going to be able to go out for about a year, which is really tough, and it's absolutely broken my heart, because I've thought throughout all of this that October is going to be fine. I'm going to get out there in October, and I'm going to go and see everybody, because these guys are a little bit like my family now. Like Chris said, it gets you. God.
Okay, I'll take over now. It's a bit of a tag team, I think. Just give you time to breathe. So we have our Build for the Future program. Our Build for the Future program is where we take volunteers out, and it's a 16-day trip, and it's an amazing adventure. It's a roller coaster ride, and you're supported and guided all the way, but you fundamentally go out and you build a house. And it takes 16 days, and we can build 1/2 houses in that time. And in the middle weekend, you actually get to go on a safari as well. And that's important because a lot of the youngsters we take out, they've also got dreams, they've got aspirations. They want to see a giraffe or a lion or an elephant. And you do get to do that as well, which is fantastic. So we had over 60 volunteers going out this year, and all that just come to a complete standstill. What impact does that have on us as a charity? And this is why we're struggling as a charity, is because that we would take £600 out of the price of a trip, which comes directly to us. And that actually then builds the house, but then it also employs as well. We've got 12 people out there that we employ, but the 3 builders and COCO'S, it gives them their wage every time we go out. And these guys have families and extended families. And again, that one wage coming in is what actually looks after these families. And when you've worked with somebody for 10 years, out there, and you've seen them being uplifted from having nothing, and when we go to their houses, they make us so welcome. They'll give you the best of everything that they've got. They just make you so welcome. And when you go to their houses, you've seen them grow over this time, and then suddenly you're not paying them. There's no money to give them that wage, because that's where our income comes from. So we're relating now, we're giving them food parcels to make sure that their families are all okay. But again, it's a struggle because of the funding. One has dropped, and also as well, the cost of everything is going up. So whereas every country in the world used to have their own market, now it's not. It's a world market. It's a world economy. So if the price of our food goes up here, it also goes up there. If the price of fuel goes up, it goes up there. So, all of those things are an incredible challenge, for us. But over the last 5 years now, actually, we've built 67 houses in total, of which you've done the 11. And we're forever grateful for Jen. One, giving us this airtime, and 2, as well, giving us the support, and her team that have come out. And it has a huge impact on the youngsters that come out. I remember we worked very closely with the Girl Guides Society, and we took a group of 14 to 15, 16-year-olds out. And we turned up at this house that they were going to be building, and there was a gogo, which is a grandma, and she had cancer, unfortunately, and really struggled to walk. And then there was also she had 3 children because her daughter had died. So she had a little 10-year-old, and then a little 6-year-old, and a little 4-year-old. And Gogo had to go to hospital. So now the 10-year-old is looking after all of those other kids. And this particular day when we were there, we were just doing the foundations with the guides, and then it started to rain, but boy, did it rain, and it was coming down. And these kids only had a little shelter, and they were kind of huddled in the corner. Gogo was in hospital, and they were there for themselves. We then get into the vehicle, and we then drive away at the end of the day. And the girls started saying, well, what about the kids? And we said, well, we're here to build the house. We don't necessarily get involved in their lives. I mean, you do, to a degree, become great friends and all the rest of it. And you could have cut the atmosphere with a knife in the minibus, because the kids, the volunteers started to get really upset as we drove away, because these kids were just in the wind and the rain in the corner. And anyways, it was so silent all the way home, all that night. And we went back the next day, and as we drove in, the sun was heating up the earth, and the mist was clearing, and the kids were there, and they could see the kids were okay, and the little girl was getting the other 2 ready for school and play school and nursery and what have you, and she was getting a fire going and cooking a little bit of rice and what have you. But when we returned back, I was just walking through town, and one of the mums came up to me, or one of the girls that was on the trip, and said, I don't know what you did to my daughter. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, she now comes home from school, and she'll empty the dishwasher, she'll start dinner. Her bedroom's always tidy. She does her homework. She said, I don't know what happened. And it's a realization that when they see how responsible these kids have to be at such a young age, they then understand actually they have choice back here. And, you know, and then they start to get involved and do much. And we've got many stories. And, you know, if people want me to come to their salons, I'm happy to come and chat to them or do talks of many of these youngsters that come back and they have literally turned their world around. And you know, and made it happen when they come back to the UK. It opens up their eyes. So it's not just the way you're going out just to build a house. It has a significant impact on your being and on your understanding of what actually is truly possible, because we do have choice in this country, and we are supported by the government in some way, shape, or form. It is out there if we need it. Whereas these kids don't. You know, they don't have that, and that's probably the hard bit now. Is the cries of help, but actually it's really hard to be able to do it at the moment. We just can't quite, make it work and make it happen. So the foundation's grown organically, and we've got our last project, which is our Close to Close project. And the Close to Close project is where we ask everybody that we know to donate their second-hand clothes. Some of it is actually new because some of it still has labels on them. It all comes to my house. Once a month, we have a group of more mature ladies, let's say, and they come in for scones and coffee and sometimes lunch, and they sit and they spend the entire day with me just sorting out all the clothes. And ex-volunteers come in, and it's a wonderful family feeling. And then we've raised over £30,000 worth in the last 5-6 years doing this, which pays for all of the beds for the kids, and it also pays for all of the school uniforms for all the children. And you yourself have been out and done the school uniform trip. We take the kids into the shops where some of them have never been in a car, some of them have never been to a shop before, and then we also take them as well. Hey?
It's carnage.
It is, and we always take them for a little meal and a wimpy as well. They have a burger and a Coke. So the journey back is always, full of laughter and fun, and they get their little school uniform. But again, that's quite heartbreaking. I've driven back before, and every time I go out, I think, I'm cool, I'm fine, I can deal with this. And something comes and bites you in the bum. Like, there's this little kid that was only 7, and his little brother or sister was, I don't know, about 6. We got them all their clothes and the school uniforms and dropped all the kids off back at their houses, and either Goggle might have been there or an auntie might have been there, but they're all orphans. There's no mum or dad. And this little kid, we get out, give him his parcels and say, where's mum? No, dead. Oh, where's dad? No, dead. Where's auntie? No, dead. Oh, where's Goggle? No, dead. You're by yourself. Yeah. And they just walked hand in hand, little pint-sized kids, just off. And then he lights a little fire, gets himself ready for, so it's, those kids then have got an opportunity to go to school, and that opportunity, they understand that education gives them a choice. It gives them the opportunity, and the houses that we build gives them choice. I mean, if everybody had their house blown up right here, right now, they'd be trying to figure out where they could stay. In fact, they couldn't stay anywhere because they want to be allowed to stay with another family or friend, but at the moment. But the mere fact that you have a house gives you choice, the choice to be able to click on here and watch us on Zoom and, on this platform and be able to and listen in. But if you haven't got the basic need, food, water, shelter, you don't have those choices.
No.
And I think that's what it's grown organically, but actually that's the way it should have been. It's just we've picked up the need when we've had to pick up the need, and that's the really important thing about the foundation and about how it's grown. And I think lastly, we have over the 10 years, a lot of these kids that we've grown up with, from little age, they are sort of 19 and, etc. And that's presented a new challenge for us. So we kind of reverted back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. and we looked at then our last project, which is what we call our Skills for Life project. And our Skills for Life project is where we have sort of 3 elements to it. So we have after school clubs, which again, you've supported, Jen, and been in those after school clubs. And in fact, you might want to say something about the little girl that you met in one.
Oh, I don't think I can.
Well, try.
Number one, I met this little girl who, I don't know, she just, I was going to put a mic in, hang on. There's loads and loads of feedback coming from my end. It will annoy people. So tip number one, I met this little girl who just literally, I don't know, you know, sometimes you meet someone and you can't get them out of your head. And then for an entire year, I just kept thinking about this little girl. Not a night went past where I didn't think about her or wake up thinking about her. And it drove me insane. And when we went back the second time, I just couldn't find her anywhere. And we spent the whole 2 weeks, didn't we? And I was bugging the hell out of everybody. Like, I need to find this little girl. I need to find this little girl. I need to find this little girl. And on the very last day, I said to Chris, can we just go back one last time to this school, because I need to find her. Like, I don't think I can leave Africa without finding her. It's killing me, and I just want that one last chance. And as we walked into the school, she was the first child sat on the very first desk, and she just spun round and looked at me, and I was like, oh my God, it's her. And then she recognised me, I recognised her, like I'm crying my eyes out. I go and sit down with her, and we're like watching the school doing their dances and stuff. It was so amazing. And then later on, this little boy who we'd been helping out in our trip, who really, really needed our help. He was 17, still in grade 3 at school, because he didn't have food, water, shelter. So he couldn't progress in school because his mind was on where am I going to get my next meal, not what am I doing at school today. And he, I was saying hello to her and to him, and he said to me, how do you know my sister? I was like, what? You don't have a sister? You're an orphan child. And he said, no, Vanilla, she stays with the lady who's letting me build a house for me on her ground. And I was like, oh my God, I think I ran out and screamed at you, didn't I? I was like crying my eyes out. And I had been to this boy's house like a few days beforehand. She must have been there. She must have been sitting there. But I was so emotional as to what we were witnessing there. My head kind of did this for some reason, and I couldn't look up at people. I had to go and sit in the bus at one point because I was an absolute wreck. And if I only had just looked up, I would have seen her. It was just phenomenal. But I'm so grateful that I found her. So grateful.
Yeah, and I mean that the team were amazing. That team, they have managed to straight away pay for some beds that, didn't they? You all did. You paid for these beds that went into the young lad's place so that he was at least comfortable. Grover, the Grover experience, which is in Eastbourne, the Salon there, we had 2 girls on the trip, Kiki and Emma. And they were fantastic in terms of they went back and they sort of put a plea to the guys in the Salon, and the Salon was amazing. They were due to have a Christmas party because they went in October, and the Christmas party obviously was in December. And they said to Gary, who'd also been on a trip about a year before, I think,
with me,
who understood. Yeah, actually he did. He was on the one before with you. That's it. And Laura and Amy, a great friend of ours, and they decided that they wouldn't have their Christmas party, and the money that they would normally pay for their Christmas party, they would then donate for the education of this young man, to be able to get him to where he needs to be. And then Jazz, which is Deb's sister, daughter, she got the team together, and again, now you all pay for him to have a food parcel. So, this one little lad now has got private lessons to help him with his education. He's got a lovely bed to be able to sleep on. He gets a food parcel. And there was a guy, an older, more mature guy called Jeff, who we call Papa Smurf, that was on a trip, and he's actually donated his house to be built when we when we can build again and go back. So just, yeah, and that's what it's about. This little boy now, through the generosity of you guys, volunteers that go out, knows that he's loved, understands that he's got somebody watching over him, and we can't thank.
At school went up, didn't they? He's like already
he's doing so well at school.
Progress.
Yeah, I mean the schools there like here have now been closed again, but we're in contact with him. He's doing all right, and the mere fact that he's getting a meal a day, isn't that what life's about?
Yeah.
You can only have so many pairs of shoes, you can only have so many cars, you can only have so many whatever. But actually, if you can see a kid grow in that way, that's what it's about. Phenomenal. So that's kind of our skills for life. And then we also do what we call PSS workshops, which are psychosocial support workshops. These workshops, we work with a charity called Luna Latanda Quantera, which means reach out to the child that are in the area. And they have social workers that are dedicated to helping these children to overcome bereavement. Because when you've got, you lose your mum, you lose your dad, you lose your brother, you lose your, loads of people, it becomes really tough. And a lot of children are abused again, and they help with identifying those kids and then being able to, support those kids. And I remember it was our first trip, and when we were building the houses, and there's a girl called Jess, hairdresser as well, just so happens, and she was chatting, she was talking and playing with this little girl most of the week, but this girl didn't cry, she didn't laugh, she didn't smile for the whole week. And this one particular afternoon, Jess was exhausted and was just sitting on the floor with this girl, and Jess drew this flower in the sand, and this girl rubbed it out, and then she drew this big love heart and pointed to Jess. And I thought, brilliant, this little girl's gonna start talking. And again, she didn't cry, she didn't laugh, she didn't smile. And you sort of wonder why, what's the matter with her? There's kind of nothing there. So I said to Sasha, what's the matter with this? Well, she had been repeatedly abused, and they just switch off emotionally. There's nothing there. It's a way of protecting themselves and making sure that they're okay. And I thought, well, what's the point in feeding a child? What's the point in clothing a child? What's the point in building a child a house if actually a child has had that happen to them and emotionally they're not right? So again, I said, how do you put this one right? I mean, you can build a house, you can spend a bit of money and buy a kid a clothes. How do you actually? And they said, well, we do these workshops. They can have over 300 kids in these workshops at a time that have gone through something in their life, bereavement or whatever. And I said, look, how much are they? And they said £1,000. So I said, I'll raise it. So I came back. It was a really bad winter, actually. I remember it well. And I went and 50 quid here from doing a talk, 100 quid there. And eventually I actually raised it. And I went back and said, can you put it on for this little kid? And, for another 300 kids as well. And they said, yeah. And I watched this little kid go into this workshop, and it's over 3 days. And over those 3 days, I watched this kid just completely transform. And at the end of it, she came up to me with a big cheesy smile, and she tugged on my shirt, and she said, thank you, Chris. And the work they did was phenomenal, just seeing this kid transform. And every time we go back, we always pop in and see her, as indeed we do with your little one as well. We always pop in and see her, and we make sure that, that she's okay. And so we try and lay on these workshops for these kids to make sure that they're all right. But again, funds are tight, and that's actually, food's more important at the moment. Yeah. But then again, it's really challenging because that there's kids out there that also need this support and need this help. And And, you know, if you come on a trip, you get to experience the PSS workshops and to see it. It's all done in Zulu, in their mother tongue, although they can speak English, because actually when you speak in your mother tongue, you can express yourself much more, which is what's really good. So it makes it a lot easier, you know, for the social workers to be able to communicate and to counsel basically them, and to be able to help them to where they need to be for their, you know, for their next journey. So the Skills for Life program has those three elements for them: the after school clubs, supporting a child through education, and then also the PSS workshops, and that's supporting them emotionally and then helping them as well. But that was never in the plan. And anybody who runs a salon, you have a passion, you have a vision, you know what you want it to look like, you know, you know where you want to be. But sometimes you need the headspace to do it. You just need it to just grow. It's a bit like what you're doing here, Jen. It was never a plan. It's just grown organically for you. And in a massive time of need, when people really do need to and want to be inspired, and, you know, and that's what you're doing, and, you know, and keeping us focused on what it is that we want to do. So these things happen for, you know, a reason, you know. You know, it's part of the bigger plan, you know, and it does happen for a reason. And, you know, we're looking with our Skills for Life program that the next level of that is that we've had an opportunity, and I'm not too sure whether it's there now, or hopefully it might be still there in the future, where there's a resort, for want of a better word, that's come up. And it's got 9 roundhouses and a big volunteer centre and a pool and all sorts. And a lot of these kids that we've now put through school, we've put them through to, they become chefs, they become waiters, they become engineers, a diving instructor. So they become loads of different things. And the last bit of that pyramid is for those people to be able to, the kids to be able to help themselves. So it's not about us always just giving. Yeah, we've got to give at the bottom end to give them choice. But once a child gets there, then it's about them fulfilling their own ambitions and actually earning a living themselves, and actually us not being able to support them. So you can just let them go like a balloon, and they'll travel and they'll do well themselves. So this opportunity has just come through in the last sort of 6 months. The COVID lockdown has completely sort of taken us off our axle with it. But there is a possibility that we could purchase it. It's 150,000. Don't have the money. Putting it out there. We're going to set up a GoFundMe page. We know we have over 2,500 people on our Facebook. If everybody donated 60 quid to us, then we know that we could purchase that, and we could change it into a learning centre, a centre where we can teach all these kids these different things and really set them up so that we then don't have to get involved. We've got people over there that can already run it, so it's not going to be a drain on our time. But it just means then that, you know, it's about putting it out there. So today there's the really 2 things that we need to help us, which is, one is the food, the £2 donation, or, you know, our bigger goal is to be able to, for them to be able to generate an income. So we would be having volunteers going out there, and those volunteers then will be able to build the house. It generates an income, but also because it's a resort, we've got 2 people that know how to dive, and we could have it as a diving centre for people when all this is lifted, to be able to go on holiday, on diving holidays. We're thinking of yoga retreats, maybe a business retreat, where people can go. That's it. And these youngsters can then look after you, they can earn their living, and they can look after their families. And that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And that's what it's about. So that would really, really help us either way, to be able to get involved and to be able to help us out as a small charity. So yeah.
I'm so excited for that. So excited for that. Wow. So I think we've covered the PowerPoint.
Yeah, we had a PowerPoint, didn't we? There's your little bit on the PowerPoint. I mean, it'd be quite nice to show probably people the before and after of a house, and maybe a house being built. So we'd like to talk them through that if you want to share that.
Okay, so the first bit about this video, I'm gonna give you a bit of a background into how. Bear with me, my laptop's about to go. Into my first trip. So I arrived at this house in the community, and I didn't know what the hell I was going to be facing here. And we got out of the bus, and in front of me were 8 children. Now there was no adult, and it really took me by surprise because I was like, "How are these kids looking after themselves?" And actually, Gogo had gone away to try and find work. And the lady that is the mum, I think she was down at the fishing, the big lake, which was miles away. Like, it must have taken her half a day to walk down there, trying to find some food.
Fish.
And she, like, these children were just on their own, and it just broke my heart. And there was actually a little baby, I'll never forget it. She was sat by the fire. Now, health and safety Jen, having had 2 children, was going, "Get the baby away from the fire." And I literally just wanted to go in and pick this baby up, but then I felt like I couldn't because I'd scare her. And these kids, this little boy kind of picked her up, and he walked around with her on his hip the whole time. And all these children, we were playing with Snapchat filters on my phone, and they were laughing. It was beautiful. But then, like, a bit of the house, a bit of the back of this mud hut that they were living in started to fall down a little bit whilst we were there. And I don't know, the kids were covered head to toe in sores. They had no shoes on. They barely had, some of them just had a jumper on. No bottoms, no clothes. It was like, one was running around in a dressing gown, a little Spider-Man dressing gown. I'll never forget him. It was like the cheekiest little chap. And they just, I don't know, that's when Africa took my heart, that exact moment. And there was a massive realisation that I was going to go home to my children, and they weren't going to be there when I got back, because I knew I was going back day one. I'm definitely coming back, and so I literally couldn't leave. And actually, for any of you that's seen me, I am makeup, hair, heels. That's me every single day. And so Africa Jen is hair straight back, no makeup, literally Bob the Builder boots, steel toe cap boots, shorts. I wear the same top and shorts all day, like every day for a week, because I don't want to take anything out there that the more space in my suitcase, the more stuff I can give away. So we're literally in the same clothes. And I just felt like I needed to do something. I couldn't leave those kids, and they've actually become my little family that I support and look after. I'm going to play a video, and I'm going to be a bubbling mess, so please forgive me. But this video Chris took with me whilst I was going through this massive breakdown, and it helped to, it literally, I'll tell you what happened to it after you've seen it. Let's have it. I'm just going to share my screen quickly. Why is that not? There we go. Okay. Excuse the face. I'm not very pretty when I cry, as you've just seen.
Okay, so we've just arrived at one of the greeted by the most amazing children, and then Gogo is actually down at the lake trying to find some fish for them to eat tonight. And what's really struck me is just what they're living in. There is nowhere for them to sleep. There is no food to eat. What is actually their kitchen? You can get it. When we arrived now, the babies were sat down here on the mat next to this open fire, hugging and playing. So I don't think I can go okay without knowing that we're going to be able to provide family a new house to live in with safety. If 1,000 people on my social media each to the Just Giving page. I'd be sincerely grateful to know that not only are we building the 2 houses that we're building whilst we're out here, but that I know that this family are getting help when I go home. Okay, you can stop that now.
So as you can see, quite a video, and that video actually ended up going viral, and it raised £4,500 in 7 days. Like, I don't think I've ever sobbed so much in my life. I nearly got run over telling Chris when we hit it, because I leapt out the box. I was like, Chris! And this car came past. But it was just phenomenal to be
I think what was so amazing was that we would obviously go on when we were on a trip. At the start of the trip, as volunteers, you're shown probably, I don't know, about 8 houses that we potentially would like to build, but we don't actually have the money to build, because we're not a charity that keeps any money back. Everything that we get, we spend on where it needs to go. And when I say everything, I mean everything. So most charities, including myself, I could, if I wanted to, take 49p out of every single pound, and I could pay myself. And God only knows at the moment with this, well, I'm not getting paid from my company or from the government. I could do with it, but we don't. My salons pick up the administration costs, and every single penny that is donated, every penny hits target. And what was so amazing on that trip is that you were shown eight houses, of which this was one of them. And for whatever reason, you got an affinity with this little family. And we would normally wouldn't make a promise. We would say, we only got enough money maybe to build 5 of those 8 houses. So we have to choose which one gets it and who doesn't. And when you raised it, it meant that house that wasn't going to get it, that family was off the list, but actually it meant that they then could get it. And the beauty of it is that when we went back, we saw which I'd never seen, we saw the trucks arrive with all of the gravel, the cement, the bricks, the roofing, and we saw the reaction of the family. That suddenly they'd gone from having what you saw just then on the video to suddenly having a house. And actually, Jen, you got to dig the footings, which again never happens for a volunteer.
No.
And as a team, which I think Gary was on that one, we then all went there and we dug the footings. I remember a snake coming past us at the time as well. We get a bit about that. But and the family, it was so nice to hold a promise to say, we're going to build it, and actually it all arrived, and that we could see the reaction and the sheer joy on their faces. And it's a bit like me saying to somebody, I'm going to build you £1 million house. What do you want it to look like? A swimming pool, tennis courts, a stable, 4 or 5 bedrooms, and suddenly these people come along and they say, we're going to build you a house, but it's actually 6 by 6 and it's 2 rooms. And it's just something very basic, but actually for them it's not. It's £1 million house. And then at the end of it, it gives them choice. They don't have to then worry about it. And I think the most beautiful thing about that whole thing was that I had the privilege of going back, and I went back, and on the way back, something when we were driving past before we got to the lodge where we stay, and we'd been traveling for like 30 odd hours, and it was evening time, and I thought, the sun was going down. I thought, I'm just going to pop in and see Jen's family. I just said to the volunteers, do you mind? And we got a minibus full of people who've never been to Africa, all of the luggage and stuff, and just and I would never have done it. I don't know why I did it. I just, something said to me, pop in and see them, and I did. I popped in and saw them, and just as I went up to the door, I knocked on it, and the door opened, and there was Gogo with her legs out, sitting on the floor, and the kids were all sitting around her with their homework and on the floor, just drawing their little pictures. She was helping them with their little bit of maths. And, you know, you didn't just build a house. You built a home.
Mm-hmm.
You built something that, that a kid feels safe, secure, and relatively comfortable.
Yeah.
And without Jen, Obsessions, Gary, and many other people who I, you know, can't really name them all, without your support, we would not have this little charity, would not do what it does. And although it's tough at the moment and it's hard, you know, it's those memories that are keeping me going and keeping everything going, to making sure that we can still get back there next year or the year after to build little homes for these kids. And these kids had the cheesiest of smiles. And I remember taking the photo and sending it to you and just saying, "Thanks, Jen.
I got it in the middle of the salon. Okay. Yeah. Any message from you, I open up immediately. I don't care where I am. And I opened this message up and I just went, everyone was like, "You're right." Thank you for sending that. Should we show everyone quickly the house being built? Because I love that video. I think it's really...
Yeah, sure. No worries.
Ooh. There we go.
So come back. So if you show the before and the after first, do the before and the after.
Which one is it? Is it
the before one? The above. So the before and the after. So there's one of them looking a bit moody. So there's one, go up if you can, and one before that. So that's a little family that was, you know, that we were going to build for, and that's where they live. That's actually their auntie. That's not their mum and dad. And the boy's about 15. One of the girls was about 14, and one was about 12. And they live, sleep, and do everything in there. And then, of course, you build a house. So the next slide, if you can move on to the next slide.
Why has it just done that?
No worries.
Oh, that's really cool. That's what?
So that's the bed where 7 kids slept. So, you know, where 7 kids slept. And then we obviously put in beds as well. I don't know if you've got that next slide of them outside their house. Was it? It's gone. It's not there. No, there's another one. But if you scroll on anyways to the house being, but that's it. And that's them after we built the house. And you can see that they've been caught. You know, that's that whole feeling of, you know, of the body language is just completely different. And it's not about the house, it's also about the relationships, you know, that they build and etc. And this young man in the middle now, he was due to go this year. Unfortunately, he can't at the moment because of COVID again. But he was due to go to EFT college to go and train to be our builder. So he is our next generation of builders. His name is Ulani, and yeah, he's our next generation of builders. Because as obviously we got bigger, we've had to take on, you know, more youngsters, and he's shown a real aptitude in wanting to do it. So yeah, which is cool. And then the slide after is the one where this is where it's been built. So it takes 5 days to build one house. You're seeing it being built here in about 32 seconds. I wish we could build them all this quick. It's built from breeze block because, again, if it was built from the traditional method, that wouldn't last. And who teaches a child to, you know, repair it? There isn't the people out there, the adults out there to do that. So by building it from breeze block, what it means is it's going to last them into adulthood. And it is really solid and secure from the elements as well. We put a middle wall down the middle, and then on one side, then the boys can sleep and the girls can sleep on the other, or Coco and the children. We put a roof on, and then we bag wash it and paint it. And hey presto, it's done within 5 days. And then we move on to another one. But it's incredible fun. Very early mornings, very long days, but so rewarding. And takes everybody out of their comfort zone. But if anybody would love to come on a trip, please contact us on info@cocosfoundation.co.uk. The trips might not be for a while, but if you want to support us, please, that £1 support would be amazing. And if you can't do the £1, if you want to do more than £1 support and do the £25, that'd be great. And if you want to help us with our bigger project that we're wanting to do in the future to finish off Maslow's hierarchy of needs, then please do. That's our big goal. Yeah.
Sure
Thank you.
I'm sorry that it's been a cry fest.
You what?
As you can see, it literally it encapsulates our hearts, and it's something that Chris obviously is so passionate about, but it's something that I am so passionate about as well. And so, if I could just ask all of you a plea from me, if you have got any kind of value out of what I've been delivering over the last 6 weeks, free of charge, every single weekend, so that I can keep you guys on top of your game, please get that £2 a month donated to Chris. That's all I'm asking, and it would just mean the absolute world to me if you could. And I understand for people if they can't, but if you can and you have got value out of what I've been delivering, then please donate that £2. Chris, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
It's been an honour, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And I've started up this thinking, what am I going to talk about or how? We didn't really have a plan. But when you're with a great friend, it's easy. And it's thanks for guiding me and steering me through. It's been a pleasure and a joy as usual. Take care, Anne. Thank you.
Take care too. I'll probably phone you later. You know what it's like.
No worries. Thanks, guys, for listening. Thank you, everybody.
See you later, guys. See you all in the morning. And for those of you that are on the Find Your Sue training, I'll see you over in the Find Your Sue training group at 1 o'clock sharp. Don't be late. Mwah.
See you there.
Bye.